All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a really great crowd and it continues to grow. So I'm really excited for everyone to be with us today and join this great conversation that we have planned. I'm Amy Doty. I'm a member of the Women's Forest Congress Steering Committee, and I'm pleased to be joining you from the traditional lands of the Piscataway peoples, now known as Annapolis, Maryland. So thank you all for joining us. Um, Mentorship is one of the most transformative forces that we have in our personal and professional growth. And today we'll explore what makes mentorship meaningful and so extremely valuable. We'll talk about what it means to be a great mentor and mentee by sharing some practical tips and resources and highlight ways to plug into some existing mentorship programs. Um, Before we get started, I want to just let you know that with all of Women's Forest Congress virtual gatherings, we will be recording the event today and we will share that after the event through email notification and via our website. Live transcription is available for those who need it. Um, and then if there are any AI assistants that join the event, we will be removing those from the event as well. Chat's available for connecting with one another, for sharing questions and comments, and throughout the event, we will have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop questions in there for us as we move through the day. And then if you feel like it and you feel comfortable, feel free to turn your camera on. We'd love to see all your lovely faces, but obviously that is not a requirement at all. And if you have any questions throughout the event and need any assistance, feel free to drop me a private message in the chat as well. See a few folks in the waiting room. I'm going to go ahead and let them in really quick. All right. And before we dive in, we want to take a quick poll of the group and just ask folks to share via this word cloud here. Using one word, describe what mentorship means to you. You can join using the QR code that you see on your screen, or you can just go to slido.com and type in the number you see here and just drop your one word in. We'd love to see what folks are thinking and how you're feeling today about mentorship. Support and guidance seem to be top choices, so that's great. Encouragement, community, unconditional support, that's even better. Growth and tradition, connection, safe space, symbiotic, ladder, learning, and perspective. Yeah, so keep those comments coming. This will stay active throughout our event today. So if something comes up, feel free to drop back over and drop in a word for us to consider. Let these Awesome. Well, we are joined today by a rock star panel of folks who will be discussing mentorship and why it matters, and they will be moderated by the fabulous Allison Harrell. Allison is a community assistance forester with the Urban Forestry Group with the Oregon Department of Forestry based in Portland, Oregon. She leads workforce development for urban and community forestry with over 15 years of experience in the field. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Allison to get our Mentorship Matters conversation started.
Thank you so much, Amy. And thank you everybody for being here. Good morning to some of you, good afternoon to others of you. We're so thrilled to have so many folks here. And I see some little pets, which makes me even happier. So just quickly, as we dive in, I think Amy already mentioned this, but I'm going to kind of go in through a few little phases. We're going to talk about the value of mentorship, how to be a great mentor and or mentee, getting involved in programs, and then we'll have some time for a live Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to the panelists to introduce themselves very quickly, their names, their roles, and quick overview of their mentorship story, which hopefully they'll also be able to share more details about as they answer some of the questions. So I'm going to start with Carolina.
Good morning. I am Carolina, and I am the Urban Forestry Coordinator for the City of Maple Ridge in British Columbia, Canada. My mentorship story began with mentorship through my organization that I used to work at. I was a mentee, and then that inspired me to join the Urban and Community Forestry Society mentorship program as a mentee as well. And after that, I felt brave enough to become a mentor, and this will be my third year being a mentor. I am looking forward to sharing more of my story with you.
Great. Kendriana, do you want to take the mic?
Absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm just going to cover all the bases. I'm Dr. Kendriana Price. I currently serve as the national president of Manners. And what I will say, you all shared words. I will share my word of what mentorship means to me, and it's transformative, not only for the mentee, but for the mentor. I think there's growth, there's challenge, there's a lot of things that happen within that space. And so if I had to pick out a word today, it would be transformative. I would say I have both been mentored and have been a mentee within the Manor space. And so I look forward to kind of unpacking that more as we go through the conversation today.
Kendriana, before you unmute, would you mind sharing what Manners stands for?
So we are just the National Society of Manners, and we are an ag professional development organization that was created to nurture the potential of our members, inspire them to connect and bridge gaps within industry. And so is within agriculture, natural resources, and related sciences. So it's a broad spectrum within the industry. So I myself am not a forester, but I have and continue to work with folks who touch this specific industry, but we're just a National Society of Manners professional development organization um, reaching across the nation. And we do have a few chapters internationally as well.
Thank you. I am bad at alphabet soup, so it's always nice to hear those actually stated out loud. Mira,
Hi, I'm Mira, and I'm the Director of Strategic Communications and Engagement at the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and Project Learning Tree Canada. I'm calling in from Ottawa today, or the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. And my mentorship story is really through the SFI and Project Learning Tree Canada mentorship program, which we'll talk about later today. But just in general, I've been very blessed to have some fabulous family members, teachers, and supervisors who have all helped me get where I am today, in informal ways as well as our formal program.
perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to dive right into the first segment, which is the value of mentorship. That's our overarching category. And my first question is for Kendriana, and it is, what mentorship experience shaped you?
I am a fan of quotes, and this is not necessarily a quote, but is a West African proverb. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that is something that perfectly kind of positions mentorship. Um, I will start with my journey into the National Society of Manners, starting when I was an 18-year-old college student at the campus of the University of Kentucky, wanting to go into health science, but found myself in a college of agriculture studying agricultural medical biotechnology. And what kind of connected me to the organization was a sense of community. And so through that community, my advisors, older students within the chapter, they kind of took me under their wing. And it's from that I got probably my longest standing mentor who has shaped my career at every step. And it's from that I'll throw another word at you all. She's kept me accountable. So she has told me things that I didn't want to hear, that I didn't like, that I wasn't trying to hear. But she's also been a source of empowerment, encouragement. Someone put up a safe space for me as I have grown through my journey within agriculture. So my background is in education. I work with people, love people, and ag can't happen without the people. But I've worked within the ag industry my entire career, with the exception of 13 months. But it was from that one relationship where I really stayed connected and was encouraged to grow, take on opportunities that I necessarily didn't think about or wasn't considering. But that going back to that accountability piece, if I needed to be held accountable in a way that I wasn't holding myself accountable. I had a mentor who I was connected through the organization that was definitely there to be both to kind of balance me out on both sides as I moved through my journey within agriculture.
Amazing. Thank you. Carolina or Mira, do you have a specific mentorship experience that feels similar or completely different than that you'd like to expand on at all?
I am just very curious whether Kendriana's mentor was my mentor too. Michelle Cole is. Do we share that mentor?
First, I love Michelle, my
Me
mentor.
too.
I'm speaking of Mia Farrell, who's a former president of Manners. Yeah, yeah, she has a piece of my heart. But I absolutely love Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you.
I love this. This is a word of wisdom to everybody here. This world is very small. Everybody knows everybody. Take advantage of that. We love that. I'll move to my next question, which is, Mira, why does mentorship matter today?
Well, I think it's no secret that it's a very tough job market out there right now. Tougher than normal in forestry. And I don't know if other people have seen this stat. I feel like I see it every couple of years resurfacing, but about 70 to 80% of jobs are not posted or are filled through networking. And so if you are going into a field where you don't have any family or friends, you don't know anybody, you don't have any connections, it can be really difficult to get that first job. Really getting that first job is super, super hard. And I think mentorship is a great way to help you build that network if you might not have one, or even if you do have one, just to keep building it and keep growing after you get that first job, continuing to advance. In the word cloud, guidance and support were the two biggest words that were coming out that people value from mentorship. And it's really to me about having somebody in your corner, somebody who's going to advocate for you, as Kendriana said, going to hold you accountable as well, and really just help you push forward, make those connections for you, open doors, and you can just go so much further with other people.
Anything that either of you want to add to that?
Sure, I'll chime in. For me, I made it my word of the year and my value of the year is connections. And this is just so fitting for talking about mentorship, creating connections in your life in all aspects. It's so important for personal development, for professional development, for any aspect of your life. If you have good connections, it's just so much more helpful to move forward.
Well, I'm going to unpack this a little bit later, but I think it's good to know what is a mentor, what is a sponsor, and who is your advocate, because I think there are three different, very distinct relationships and roles that folks can play. And of course, one person can be all three or one of the two or what have you. So I appreciate the comment of knowing how someone can advocate for you. And there's sometimes that you might have an advocate that doesn't have the space or capacity or the time to invest in the mentorship piece. But I will throw those three lanes out there because I do think that they play a role, especially if you're thinking about entering into a space where you're not as connected. Those relationships do matter.
Yeah, it's definitely not to be missed that mentoring people and being a mentee, which we will dive into in just a moment, does take time and effort, emotional energy, etc. So I appreciate you bringing that up as a really important component of mentorship. And that's really where the value is that somebody is investing time and energy, on that sort of two-way street. I think this goes perfectly into my next question for Carolina, which is what misconceptions do people have about mentorship?
Thank you. So I wrote 4 points that I think are what came to my mind when I was thinking about this. And so there might be others, but I'll just cover these four. The first one is that it is a one-way relationship. It is not. It is definitely a two-way, but it is what you make of it. So what you put into it, you get out of it. So it is definitely not one way. The second is that it is a completely formal process, and it can be. You can join through organizations that have a specific agreement that you sign, but it doesn't have to be. You can also have informal mentorship, and you set up the terms of that relationship. The third one is that you always have to be meeting at someone's office or adjusting to that person, to your mentor's schedule. It is not. And I encourage anyone who becomes a mentee, if you are an in-person relationship, never book the session in their office because they'll for sure get interrupted. Always find a place outside of what you both do for work and make sure that that time is your time. So, what I normally do is go for coffee. I deal in coffee because of my Colombian roots. So, anytime I need something, let's go for coffee. And the fourth thing I would like to mention is that a misconception is that you need just one mentor, and you don't. In my experience, I have found mentorship in different areas of my life at the same time. And yes, it does take time and commitment, but at that time I felt I needed a little more support in different aspects. So I mentioned at the beginning I started my journey with mentorship at the previous organizations I worked at, and that was a very much business mentorship for working in a municipality, and the person I was dealing with had nothing to do with trees or what I did. So I felt the need to reach out and to find someone that could speak my tree language. And that's when I joined the Urban and Community Forestry Society, and I got paired with Michelle Cole, and she was my first mentor in this industry. And it was a really good thing to have two different sets of opinions and two different sets of support systems around you. And yeah, those are my 4 big points.
Great. Thanks, Kendriana or Mira. I feel like that was a pretty complete answer, but if either of you have anything you want to add, I see some head nods. Okay,
I
cool.
just want to emphasize that mentorship is not a one-way experience. Definitely, we hear that all the time from the mentors in our program that they got just as much out of the experience as their mentee did.
100%. I teach at community college, and I think I get more from my students than they get from me. So it's really amazing to be on both sides of it. Okay, I'm going to dive into the how to be a great mentor-mentee component of this. So, Mira, I'm going to go right back to you. What, in your opinion, makes someone a strong mentor or mentee?
So starting first with the mentor, I think again, what we just talked about, realizing that or being open to the fact that you should be learning from the experience as well and gaining new perspectives and developing your leadership and coaching skills, being open-minded to meet your mentee where they're at. And also open-minded if you're not perfectly aligned in professional areas or in your specific interests, there's still a lot of value that you can provide to them. Another piece of being a strong mentor, I think, is giving consistent and very clear feedback. Feedback is not mean if it's delivered in a good way. It's really important for that growth piece. And then the last point I want to make on being a strong mentor is facilitating further connections for your mentee. I think those are some of the strongest mentors that a mentee can have is who are opening other doors, introducing you to somebody else, knowing like I might not have all the connections or I might not be in this exact specific interest area of yours, but I know somebody who is, so I'm going to help you meet that person. So So for me, that makes a very strong mentor. And then for a mentee, um, show up on time every time. Um, respect your mentor's time. I mean, be grateful for the time that somebody is investing into you. And another way that you can really respect their time is you're showing up with specific questions that they can help with specific areas that you want to focus on, and or things you need to work on, or areas you need to grow on. Um, it's easier for your mentor to give you feedback or to make connections to help you advance if they know specifically what you're looking for. If you come with some very open-ended questions, and I'm not saying don't come with any open-ended questions, it can be harder to know exactly where your mentor can help you out. Um, so again, even looking into what experience does your mentor have, and what value could they provide? Have they worked in the industry and the public sector and the nonprofit sector? Can they tell you the differences of working in all those types of areas? So just doing some of your due diligence yourself and being in charge of setting the meetings, showing up, scheduling things, taking any burden of time, any time burden that you can away from your mentor, I think will make you an amazing mentee. And following up, telling them when things have gone well, telling them if things have not gone well, but just keeping them up to date with what they're helping you out on.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely that respect going both ways. Again, we're seeing that theme of that two-way street coming up on the word cloud as well as in all of these answers. And then I think one thing definitely to think about is, you're talking about being receptive to feedback as well as giving feedback, right? This is going both ways. So I think the open-mindedness around feedback is a really important component to that strong mentor-mentee development. I'm going to jump to the next, Kendriana. What boundaries have you seen help mentorship thrive? Which actually really ties into the question that we just heard about.
It does. I'm gonna continue to build. This might seem very simple, but I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning, the ask. So I have been in spaces where folks are just like, they're my mentor. Well, do they know that they're your mentor? Like, was that a conversation that was ever had to establish that? There are some things that kind of organically happen, but I think for a good mentoring relationship to really fit the need that you're wanting from that relationship, or that kind of bound, the acts has to happen. And so if the act didn't happen, I encourage you to have that conversation with whoever that individual is, because from the acts you can then have the conversation of, I would like to meet this at this cadence. We would love to establish that we're meeting not in our office, but we're going to. So I have tea chats. I don't drink coffee, but I'm a tea person, so tea chats. We're going here. We're establishing what this looks like from the both of us, so that we can be successful in coming together on both ends. But it starts with the ask, which I
Define the
think is a step.
relationship, if you will.
Absolutely. And it was already mentioned about following up, but I will also say following through. So if you're having a conversation with an established mentor and they're just like, this will be a good book for you to read, or you might want to check out this podcast or this article, actually do it. And then in the next conversation, share back the thing that you learned or how it helped you, or some things that is helping you to process or resonating with you. So following up, but following through is as important. And then something that I like to put out there that I don't know if is the most, I would say, common thing. Some mentor relationships are time bound. So it might be that I'm only going to be in this established mentor relationship for a year, 6 months, or what have you, so that you're meeting the goal of whatever conversation that you all have established for the relationship. And that is completely fine. However, I do recommend staying connected and following up every so often, just so that that relationship doesn't die completely. And so that time bound is not only the time that you're spending together within the constraints of the mentorship, but what does that look like if it's only for a shorter amount of time? There are those of us who have life time mentors, and that's fine too. But I think defining that relationship is key. But the ask him, because they might say no because they know they don't have the time or the capacity, and that is okay. But they might then connect you with somebody who does, and so that ask is important.
Well, and the beautiful thing about mentorship, even if it is time bound, you typically become pretty good friends with your mentor and mentee, and then you have a lifelong relationship for when something else comes up down the line. So even if they're not meeting on a regular cadence, something will come up and you'll be like, I'm going to ask this person about this. Carolina, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add that, if you ask someone to be your mentor, it's highly likely they will say yes if they have the time, because what an honor to be asked to be a mentor. It's like, wow, really? You think that highly of me? That's amazing. I'll do it. So take that chance.
Definitely. Okay, Carolina, you can stay on mic'd. We're going to take this to the darker side, but what pitfalls have you seen within mentorship, and what can you recommend to try to avoid some of those pitfalls?
All right. Yeah. So I think the biggest piece I have here is communication. So establishing from the get-go the cadence, like it has been mentioned, and sort of, even if it's an informal relationship, establishing sort of some ground rules that you will follow. It is very important, because if you don't have that structure, then you may end up losing in touch, or it may not work for you. So making sure you have that set up. If you join through an organization where there is a set timeline of mentorship, you will be prompted to do all this as part of the program. And so it's helpful to start that way if you're not too sure of what it all involves. And in my personal life, that's how I did it. I did it formally, and then I adopted and made my own little contract to do my informal mentorship relationships afterwards. And so having that clear from the get-go is very important, and a pitfall that can happen. So the next thing that you should watch is if you're doing it through an organization, you may be paired up with someone that doesn't match with you, and that is okay. But the pitfall is not speaking out. So if you feel that relationship is not working, you're not getting out what you want, or it's being really hard to schedule, speak out and let the organizers know, or even let your mentor know. Have that conversation. They might be thinking the same thing, and that's okay. We're all different people, and sometimes when someone's matching you, they don't know your full life and your full needs, and so it's we're all human. That happens. So don't hide behind that, and don't suffer through a relationship that is not working, because it's time consuming. We're all in time deficit, so speak out. Keep that communication line open and be honest about it. And sometimes they can rematch you with someone else, and that can work as well. And let me see. Yeah, that's the main thing. Just make sure you have a structured relationship. It doesn't have to be too formal, but just have some ground rules of how this is going to work, when, and it'll probably work out. And if it doesn't, speak out about it.
Mira, I saw a lot of head nods from you, so I'm going to give you the mic for a moment to see if there's anything you want to add on.
I was just agreeing with what she was saying as well. Yeah, just I mean, as an organization who has a mentorship program, if we do hear that a mentee mentor match is not working out, we do our best to rematch, because that sometimes just is the case, that it's not, we do our best to make great matches. Sometimes it's just not working out for whatever reason, and we try and rematch based on that. But if we don't know and people just drop off, then you lose the opportunity to have had a great mentorship experience. Um, and yeah, ground rules. I mean, Kendriana and Carolina were laid that out very well. I think it's good to define the
Yeah, and I
relationship for
mean,
sure.
I think it goes back to your original point in one of your first questions, Mira, which was the feedback loop. And if it's not working, that is part of the feedback loop. So
Mhm.
definitely great. insight from the two of you. Okay, I have a slightly more pointed question for Kendriana, and especially this is for you because you are with an organization that specifically calls out minorities in this workforce. And it is, do you have any tips with your elaborate experience in this realm of the world for navigating equity within the mentor-mentee space? I deal with this a lot as a person of color also, but you are just at you're at a space where you get to see this happening on a broader scale. So I just thought this would be an interesting question to bring to you, to this group.
So here, it's not a quote, but here I go with my sayings again. Personally, I have an ethos where like I want to pull up and push past me when it comes to the folks in my space. And I think Manners as an organization does that very well. And so when you think about what does it look like setting up those relationships, the connection piece is important. Where I'm going to take a turn is and I'm gonna turn it internally. I find it valuable as a Black woman to have a mentor, at least one that is another Black woman, so that I can have guidance from someone who has life experience or lived experience from a lens similar to mine, so that the guidance is there. Right. So there's that piece of it. The other piece that I will also advocate and promote is equally valuable to have mentors who do not have the same lived and life experience for you, because that also presents a growth opportunity. It presents kind of a frame where you can grow your own understanding about the world around you to then be more effective as you may be connecting and helping to mentor others within your space. And so with that, I feel if you have the chance to be a mentor, if you're asked, just to step and lean into that, because I shared before, it is a two-way street. So it's not just the mentee that can grow from that experience. The mentor can also grow from there as well. And so it's a sense of leaning in and having I personally have a call to responsibility where I feel like is a part of just who I am as a person. If I have the opportunity, because that's what it is, it's an opportunity to help contribute to somebody else's journey for them to thrive. Why not lean into that? Right. And so that's some thoughts that I will leave you all with when it comes to that. But also think it goes back to being asked. A lot of folks don't do things simply because they weren't asked. And that consideration can really change the trajectory of what that looks like as far as folks being involved in mentorship and how do you grow a mentorship program simply from being asked.
Amazing. Thank you. Yes, I think I personally have had a lot of value with somebody with a shared lived experience, but obviously have lots of experience with folks that have a very different lived experience from myself. So I appreciate you sharing that. It is coming from all directions. I think I just want to highlight really quickly that the whole purpose of this Women's Forest Congress is really nice to get women in the room together, because as we know, women in itself are underrepresented in green industry as a whole. So thank you for existing, and thank you for bringing all of these folks together. And I think like this may be the opportunity for you to identify some people that you might want to ask to help mentor you in some way. So perfect segue into getting involved in programs. For any of you who may be interested in how to get involved in mentorship programs, I'm going to ask the three of you to share the programs that you have. So I'm going to start with Mira, plugging into the conversation around the SFI PLT Canada mentorship program. And if you want to share what that stands for also.
Yes, so it's the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and Project Learning Tree Canada mentorship program. We run it every year. Project Learning Tree Canada is an educational initiative under SFI, so we all work together. And PLT Canada, or PLT in the US, works in the education and career space. So this program, it's binational, it's virtual. We're recruiting for it currently, mentees and mentors. It's totally free to participate in the program. We're accepting applications on a rolling basis until August 6th, but because of the rolling basis, we might fill up sooner than that. Um, we always have more mentee interest than mentor interest. So would love if if anybody on the call today is interested in being either a mentee or mentor, would consider signing up. I think Amy put the link in the chat. Um, but this cohort runs from September to end of November. It has a formal structure associated with it, but there is the flexibility for mentees and mentors to kind of make it their own. For the mentees, we have some skill building, networking webinars. Then we also have some webinars for mentees and mentors to all come together and kind of meet the cohort, the larger cohort. And then the mentee and mentor who are paired together, they set a schedule of meetings for themselves, and we suggest, 2 to 4 hours a month for the 3-month program. So for us, it's time bound to that 3 months. Often pairs will decide on their own to continue the mentorship relationship if they feel that it's been a good fit for them. But from a mentor commitment standpoint, it is just 3 months that you're committing a few hours a month. Yeah, if there's any other questions in the chat about it, I'm happy to answer. And yeah,
Great.
I think I
Yeah.
covered
Yeah.
most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the mentorship application is in the chat for Amy, and then Audrey said it's a great program that provides training for both mentors and mentees. I participated last year, so we have a glowing review from somebody who's participated in it. All right, I'm going to shift to Carolina to talk about the Urban and Community Forestry Society mentorship program and anything else.
Hi, yes, thank you. Yep, Urban and Community Forestry Society. If you are a member, it's also a free program. It is a 1-year relationship, and it also offers sort of quarterly meetings with the whole cohort, as well as a little bit of support and training for both mentors and mentees. So it's not very formal, but it is there. And I actually used some of that support with my last mentee-mentor relationship because I was feeling that I needed to provide a little more help, and it was so great to find others in the industry that could help me reach that and approach my mentee with better ideas. And so the sign up for this year has ended. It's closed, but keep your eyes open. Normally, it opens up in about March every year, and it is also virtual. But I had the pleasure of meeting both my mentor and mentee at MFI in February this year. So that was a very exciting moment to be in the same room with the three of us. So yeah. Oh, I also would like to mention that I personally have my own professional mentor who I just approached. It was a person that worked in my organization, and I asked him, "Hey, would you like to be my mentor?" And like I said, I kind of took the formal agreement that UCFS had and made it my own. And we did this agreement. And even though I've left that organization, I keep that relationship ongoing, and we still meet for coffee. And he is my sort of municipal organization mentor. And we don't even have to talk about that contract anymore. We just do it. So it can last more than that set timeline. Thank you.
Great. And then Kendriana, if you wanted to talk about the LEAD program.
Yes, so the National Society of Manners has one of our signature programs be the Lead Mentoring Program, which is a virtual e-mentoring program. And that's because our members, of course, are spread very broadly across the nation. So with this, we do our recruitment in the fall to kind of align with when students are coming back to campus. We do have our matches made by the end of the semester so that they can make that first connection, have orientation application. This is an agreement-based program, so both mentee and mentor do sign an agreement for what that looks like, and it is also time-based where we set the ask for that time, that mentoring to take place in the spring semester. Of course, the mentee mentor can go past that if they choose, but while in the program, that is the ask for program participants. We do have a curriculum that we use to kind of help these pairs as they go through with how are you setting up that support. But for folks who have been involved, they kind of know the lay of the land, so to speak. But for those who may be new mentors, we definitely want them to step into this, not feeling like they have to know all the things. And so that curriculum helps with that. And then how we do our pairing is we try to mesh our students with professionals within industry that kind of align towards their career goals or some other goal that they're trying to meet. But we also encourage when those pairs are developed to then have that conversation again, because it may shift from the time that they apply to the time that the matches are made, just to make sure that we're getting the most of each match and getting the students the support that they're wanting to get out of their program. And so our applications will actually open up for our members in September. We'll close them in November, and then by December, we'll have our matches made to be ready for the spring. And so we just wrapped up our program from this past cycle.
Amazing. Thank you. So exciting to hear that there are so many existing mentorship programs. I have one quick question in regards to these programs. Sounds like some of the recommendations and the overarching themes are making sure that they're time bound, making sure that you're meeting on certain intervals, making sure that you're matching folks in a way that makes sense, having things be calculated but not too rigid. But what other things should organizations consider when they're designing their own mentorship programs? Any sort of quick thoughts on that?
Something that we do with our mentees is pre-screening them with a phone call in addition to the application, and just, ensuring that people pick up the phone when they're called. And then as well for mentors, if we don't know them personally, if they're not from our network, we will call them as well to make sure that we feel they're a good fit for the program.
Nice. That makes very good sense.
I will insert from kind of the high level lens of our organization at ACTS has come from establishing something to assist with professional mentorship. And so the lead mentorship program is for collegiate student, which happens to be our largest membership base. But we are an organization where you can be a member from the time you're in sixth grade all the way to a retiree. And so our membership is very broad reaching. And so while lead mentorship program focus on that collegiate to professional bridge, there's an ask to how can we expand something to be developed for the professional to professional bridge, specifically within our members who are advising collegiate students. And so in being open and listening to how you can expand and do mentorship in maybe different aspects that may not be reached is something that we're looking at that's pretty exciting for this year.
Perfect. Great advice. Okay, I have one last question before we dive into Q&A. So if you have Q&A questions, start populating those in the chat. But what advice would you have for people who feel unqualified to mentor? I know that when I was kind of I had completed maybe like 10 years of my career, and a couple people had asked, like, would you be willing to be a mentor? And I'm like, but I'm just a baby. But what advice do you have for folks that may be like having a little bit of imposter syndrome, but clearly are qualified to start to step into a mentorship role?
I mean, I think if you think of yourself before you started working, and then even 6 months on the job, how much growth happened in that period and how much learning happened in that period. For our program, mentors, the minimum experience requirement is 3 years because a lot of our mentees are a younger age range. And just knowing that even though you might not feel that you have 20 years experience or decades of experience in the field, several years in the sector, several years working, you have learned so much more than you're giving yourself credit for. Um, and that kind of comes out when people start asking you their questions. You're like, oh, yes, I know how to write a resume. I know how to act in an interview. Like it's questions like that. So also knowing, what level is appropriate for you to be mentoring at that stage. But you can be mentoring just a few years of professional experience in. Um, and just try and remember yourself when you were fresh and green on your first day on the job, and maybe you didn't know what to even wear for your first day of work or what to bring or anything like that. Like those are some of the questions that mentees will actually have, and you are more than prepared to answer those.
I would like to add that don't be afraid. You may not have all the answers, and that's okay. That is part of the mentorship relationship. But you know what? I know so and so who might know. Let me get call him or her, and next time we meet, I may have some answers for you. Or you may also learn so many more things from your mentee. Uh, in my case, the people that I've been paired with have all been in the US. I am in Canada, and it's fascinating. I learned so much about their government, about tree species, and it's just been great. And after the first time I did it, I'm not afraid anymore. And I know that I'm just going to jump in with an open mind and willing to help out if I can. And if I can't, I'll try and find ways to do it. And if it's not possible, I'm just going to be honest. And, we move on from there.
This may come as a shock, but actually, it is impossible for all of us to have all of the answers. So,
Yes.
okay, so folks, please start putting your Q&A. We're going to move into that. Ooh, yay, perfect. And I guess before I'm going to start sorting through these, any last thoughts? I'm going to leave for the three of you to share your last sentence if you've got anything that you want to tie your little bow on. Anything? Okay, I'll dive. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'll dive into the questions. So I recently retired and worked in forest management and riparian ecosystems, but have been pursuing mentoring relationships for forestry and other ecosystem types. Many folks I know as former colleagues, which is good because I know them, but it can create or illuminate challenges. Is it better to find someone you didn't have a professional past relationship with? And how do you find someone that is more philosophically aligned? So really, do you think it's helpful to have somebody new, or do you think what have your experiences been with that? And how do you find a good match?
I don't have the answer, but I do know that if you have someone that is in your same line of work, you are going to get a lot of the same language. If you get someone that is outside of your work, maybe in the same industry but outside, you will get a fresh set of eyes on what you're doing. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Do you want a fresh new perspective without bias necessarily? Or do you want someone who speaks your language the way you work? So it really depends on what you personally would like to see out of it.
And as far as the
Yeah.
philosophical question, oh, Kendriana, go ahead. Go.
I will add in there. So I'm currently in a leadership program that requires us to find mentors. And so I have a set of three. Two I knew from previous professional relationships. One completely new. I met one time and they threw out into our space. I'm willing to take on new mentors. And what kind of drew me to that person was their energy. I'm going to be honest, it was their energy. I was like, I love your energy. But even past that, the work that they did aligned with the work that I'm now moving into. And so I felt that I could grow. Since our conversation, since we've been through the process, she's like, I don't know who's a mentor here. I don't know if it's you or me. Like it's been things that we've been able to gain back and forth, but I just kind of leaned in to the opportunity that was presented to me, and I just went with my gut with the energy, and that has proven to be successful. So I really think that it is circumstantial. It really depends on you, how you're seeing what you're wanting to do, whether that past professional relationship matters or not. I don't think that there's a good or like it's not a this or that. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. I don't know if that answers the
Yeah,
question, but that's what I
yeah,
that's what I'll offer.
great. We've got a myriad of questions floating through. So, two questions about your programs. So, how do you measure success for your programs, and how many mentor-mentee pairs do each of your organizations have per cohort?
I can kick this off. So
Great.
for our cohorts, we're usually looking at 30 to 50 pairs. And again, it's typically limited by how many mentors we have that have shown interest, because we can always find mentees who are looking for a connection. And then, so that's 30 to 50 pairs across Canada and the US. Um, and then for measuring success, we do a pre-test for mentees. So a series of questions, just kind of gauging where they're at based on some different statements. Then there is a midpoint check-in survey for mentees and mentors to see how the relationship is progressing and if there's any issues at that point. I mean, we also have like office hours for the staff has office hours, and you can email at any time or call if there's any issues that come up before the midpoint check-in. And then there's a final survey for mentees and mentors. And in the final survey for mentees, there's that list of statements again to see if there's any, you know, change in how they're feeling confidence-wise with any of those statements. So that's how we typically measure the success for our mentorship cohorts, but we're always, looking to improve our metrics and evaluations as well.
Great. Kendriana, what do you do at the LEAD program? How many pairs and how do you measure success?
The goal is all, or a nice number for us is always 100, but we're in the business of decreasing the barriers for folks to be successful. So it really depends on our capacity, depends on how many mentors we have. If they're willing to take more than one, we like to see the pair be just one. But if we have a mentor that's like, I have the capacity to do two, we'll work with them. And then as far as evaluation and how we measure success, we have several check point surveys that we do throughout the experience, and then we do a holistic evaluation at the end, and that is based on a rating so that we kind of can quantify the success of the relation or the program itself.
Great. And then Carolina, do you know for UCFS numbers or metrics? You don't run the program, so I
I
don't expect you to
don't,
know.
but I
That's
do
okay.
know that like Mira, it is limited by the number of mentors. So it really depends on who volunteers.
Great. Okay, I have one last question, and this one is for you, Carolina, which is earlier you said something about distinguishing between mentor, sponsor, and advocate. Could you talk about that just a teeny bit more?
That was Kendriana, so tag, you're it.
Sorry, I had it
That's
written down
okay.
under yours.
Yeah, so when you think of a mentor, think of an advisor, somebody who's guiding, somebody who's there to help you think through things, help you develop in that way. And so their main function is how am I helping you grow, is how I like to think of the mentor piece. A sponsor, which is, I feel that we've all probably have come in contact with sponsors and did not know, like, or have called them something different, but there are rooms that all of us are not in, but we have somebody who is willing to say our name or give us access or kind of get us in the room without us being in that space. And so those what sponsors are, I think they're super important. And going back to an earlier comment, like how do you progress in a career? That's a key part where sponsors become important because they might be in that interview space behind the scenes that you'll never get to see, but say, I know somebody who is great for this. We should take a look at this person. And then the advocate piece is someone who's willing to kind of defend your credibility, is how I would say that. So if there is something that is happening in the space and you might not be in that space, or maybe you are in that space, that they're willing to stand up like, I know this person, I know this to be true. And so they're willing to kind of help position you in a way that is ensures that you thrive. And so each are different. They all can be wrapped into one, but I think that they play a key role as a professional to have folks within those spaces. Um, yeah.
Perfect. All right, we're coming up on time and we're going to end on time. So I think just key takeaways: mentorship is a two-way street. Be open to giving and receiving feedback. Utilize your network. That's everybody here. Don't be afraid to get to be part of this, and make the ask. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Amy to close us out.
Yeah, thank y'all so much. I learned so much. I loved hearing all of your stories and your experiences. I loved hearing about the programs that are out there as well. And so I really hope everyone that was with us today gained some invaluable insights as well. I did want to remind everyone of our upcoming webinar, or the remaining webinars that we have, Lunch and Learns for the rest of the year. So we do have another on September 17th and then again on December 10th. We are working out the topic for the 17th, so we'll share more about that as we get closer. But I do want to say that our December 10th will be our second annual research roundup. So if you're working on some research or have completed some research recently, or have a colleague in that space, be prepared to, or be on the lookout for an application process to submit that for our research roundup in December. And the QR code there you can scan to register. So I really want to thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions after the event, or just, it stopped. There we go. After the event wraps up, you want to reach out to the Women's Forest Congress, feel free to shoot us an email at info@womensforestcongress.org. And again, we just thank you all for being with us. Thank you, Allison, Kendriana, Carolina, and Mira, for sharing your experiences and stories. And we just hope you all have a great rest of the day.